Hi, everyone. This is Raquel Kibrid, CEO of Sterna International Business. And today we're talking about how to do business with Brazilians. So in this mentoring session, we'll cover topics about behavior and about mindset and about culture and how you can actually interact more efficiently with Brazilians. I'm Brazilian myself. So it's great to be able to talk a little bit about us this time and looking how many raising interest from international players to enter the Brazilian market. And you should definitely put Brazil on your short list for many reasons. Some of them we will cover in this session. But so looking at that, we put together a presentation. So whenever you're doing business with Brazilians, you know what to expect, how to interact, and how to win deals. So I'll go ahead and just progress on the presentation. The way that we usually do this mentoring sessions, I'll probably talk for another 20-30 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for questions. So if you have any burning questions, please write them down here on the chat or raise your hand when we open the Q&A, and I'll be glad to actually go over them. This is a mentoring sessions that I've done a few times now for foreigners looking to do business in Brazil. So I'm very happy that we can do this one here with all of you. So a little bit about me. I'm an international strategist designer, and I help companies from all over the world. I created Sterna 7 years ago to support more founders, more entrepreneurs in their international journeys. One of the main focus that I specialize is international strategies, international sales, global expansion, international branding, and just strategic planning in general for companies that are looking to expand. One of my specialties is helping the company decide on where's next and how is next. And I'm honored to have participated on many expansion projects. I think Sterna now has over 50 expansion projects delivered, inbound to Brazil or outbound to other parts of the world. And we're here to fulfill our mission. And when Sterna was created, the whole point was to bring together a group of specialists in international marketing, international sales, international law, international tax. So everybody, international logistics. So everybody works together in our projects to help our clients be more successful in their international journey. I also love sharing knowledge about going international. So, I mean, I have worked in multiple verticals in every kind of sector possible, from agriculture to technology, to retail, to infrastructure imports. Yeah, we definitely have a broadened scope of work within Sterna and within my professional profile. I'm also a mother of two, a serial entrepreneur. Very happy with those titles as well. So let's deep dive on Brazil. If there are three words that define Brazil, I think it's this ones: flexibility, persistence, and confidence. And you will see a little bit later why I chose these words, but definitely it's something to keep in mind of. So this is our country. So Brazil has 27 states divided in 5 regions. You see the colors here: the blue, the red, the yellow, the orange, and the green. Each region of the country has a specific economic profile. So one of the elements that I absolutely love talking about is how continental this country is. Just to give an idea, for us to fly out to another country from Sao Paulo, it takes between 2 to 3 hours just to leave our country. So it's a massive territory. And then each region of the country has a different economic fabric. So depending on what your company is doing and who your target client is, it might be that you're not landing in Sao Paulo for that. It might be that you might be considering Minas Gerais for mining, or you might be considering the Northeast for tourism, or you're working with agriculture. Then the yellow section of the map might be more relevant to you, or you're working with bioeconomy, and then the Amazon, which is the green area of the map, might make more sense for you. So again, just every part of the map is expresses a little bit of our economic fiber. Most of our population is actually based on the coast, so so that's where we're most densely populated, within like 100 kilometers from the coast, going towards the center of the country. That's where most of the population is. Our current GDP is just a little below 2 million, and our GDP growth last year was 2.8%. Our currency is real, currently devaluated from dollar in Europe. So for those of you investing in Brazil, it might be a little bit cheaper now. You can get a lot done with dollars and euros in this country. Our language is Portuguese. Again, it's a 200 million people speak Portuguese in this country. So you might consider either learning a little or hiring somebody that does. In terms of language, our country has a very low fluency in other languages. We only have the statistics for English, which is 5% of the population actually speak English, and there are no statistics for Spanish or any other language. So again, it's the language barrier is one of the most relevant items to address in your list if you're expanding to Brazil and considering how you would like to engage with your target clients. More than 90% of Brazilians are Christians, from every spectrum you can imagine in Christianity, being evangelicals, Catholics, again, just on every side. There's a very small Jewish population in Brazil, and also a small Muslim population in Brazil, mostly concentrated in the São Paulo state. Might be out of curiosity, so you know a little bit more about this country, that we have the largest populations outside of Japan are in Brazil. The largest populations outside of Germany are in Brazil. Syria and Lebanon, also largest populations of those countries, are here in Brazil. So again, this just plays within our culture, and you will see in the concentration of the country. So in the south of Brazil, in the blue area, we have a large German oriented culture, or more in the orange part, whereas the northeast, we have a more African oriented culture. In the red area, where São Paulo and Minas is, there was a big Italian population that came, and that plays a big part on our behavior too. So even though we're colonized by Portuguese people, by Portugal, all this melting pot, and we're true melting pot here in this country, plays a big part of who we are and how we behave. And you will see differences between interacting with people from the south of Brazil all the way up to the north, how different those behaviors can be. I hope this was okay. I do want to move forward and actually explain a little bit about this graph, which helps us a lot to read behavior. So Hofstede is a great specialist from the MIT, if I'm not mistaken, and he created the Culture Compass. And the Culture Compass actually examines every culture, behavior according to their mindset uh, in six indicators, and that each indicator actually plays a part on how important that indicator is for a specific country, for a specific culture. So I'm not going to go over all of this, but I wanted to highlight a few aspects on how you can use this to the benefit of doing business in Brazil. So you see the graph. So whatever the graph is, the column of the graph. So let's look at the power distance, for example. So power distance is the first graph on your left side, right? And we've chosen Brazil, Chile, Portugal, UK, Canada, and the United States, in this case, for comparison, okay? And whatever that indicator is higher than 50%, it actually plays, it means that that country, that culture, considers that as a relevant aspect when doing business, okay? So for instance, Brazil is almost 70%, but the UK is 45, is on the 45 point, okay? So what does it mean? And you have to see the gap, and whenever the gap is relevant, it means that you have a gap to overcome to be able to communicate. So you should pay attention when you see those graphs and there's a big gap between one point or another. That's the one that you should pay attention to, because that's the one that you have to be more observant. So on power distance, it just means that in Brazil we really value hierarchy. So CEOs speaks with CEOs, directors speaks with directors, and so on and so forth. CEO does not speak with an intern. That's considered rude for negotiation aspects. Okay, of course, within the organization, each organization has its culture and has its standing. But whenever you're doing business, you have to consider those titles and who you're going to put against actually speaking to them. So sometimes we have international companies prospecting clients in Brazil. They will put an analyst to do an outreach for a meeting with a CEO of a large corporation in Brazil. That request is very unlikely to be responded. Okay. If the email comes from a CEO of the country, of the company, to a CEO in Brazil of a large corporation, then that's going to get attention. So it's important to actually understand how we do business and how power distance actually plays. In other countries, that might not be so relevant, but in Brazil, it definitely is. Motivation towards achievement and success. So this just plays a little part on how competitive a person can be or not. So here you see the US go up high with 80 points, while we're around 50. So we're definitely not as competitive as Americans in Brazil. We actually take competition on a different approach, on a more collective vision of a win-win situation, and this is a little different. Indulgence, it goes towards status. If it's how do we consider the status within doing business and how we actually use our money to indulge ourselves or not. And then you see we're just a little bit below United States, Canada, and the UK and Chile, which are ranking pretty much on a similar rate, while Brazil is around 60. And look at Portugal. Portuguese is 30 plus. So it just means that for Portuguese, they probably don't value so much the indulgence side. But for Brazilians or the US, we care. So what does this mean in real terms? Sometimes when you're going to the meeting, what kind of watch are you wearing? What kind of shoe are you wearing? How do you present yourself? Is there a brand associated? There is no brand association. Can you see what car are you arriving or not? So sometimes these things actually play within how we are perceived in a specific market. Okay. Long-term orientation. So as you see here, again, there's a difference between, look at the UK, how high it is. and look at how low Brazil is compared to the UK. This just means that British people actually have a more of a long-term vision for whenever they're doing business. They're looking for long-term partners. They're looking for long-term goals. They want to see the progress, but the mindset is a little different. In Brazil, we tend to have a more flexible terms in terms of timing of doing business. So we don't have so much of a long-term orientation. Sometimes for us, long-term is 6 months, is a year, is a 2-year process in most industries, right? But of course, this can differ a little bit if you're working for the infrastructure sector. The assets timelines actually take longer to mature. So again, you have to see within your industry how that plays. But in general terms, we tend to have a more of a shorter term orientation than the UK or Canada or the United States. Uncertainty avoidance. And again, you can see, I'm comparing the UK because it's where we see the most differences, okay? But in this case, Canada and the United States could also be considered in this analysis. And what it means here is that this indicator is related to risk avoidance, okay? So you see the UK, very low risk tolerance. Uncertainty is something that doesn't fit quite well with the British people. So it kind of plays within the way that they're looking for safety, that they're looking for forecasts. Like they want to see what's going to happen. They want to have predictability in how they're doing business. And Brazilians take a more of a flexible approach. We tolerate uncertainties and we deal with how we manage our lives, or we manage our business in a more of a flexible level, and we manage risks as they come at us, not as much as risk management is something that we're learning, but we're not quite there yet. So I would say that there's definitely a gap here in the mindset of how we approach this business. This mostly translates in the contracts in business terms when we see on how international contracts might actually look of that uncertainty avoidance more clearly, especially when doing business in Brazil, and they will consider another clauses just to guarantee that business deals will move forward as predicted. And the last one is about individualism, and then again, like this just plays within our collective mindset in Brazil. We definitely value our relationship with others and how we actually share responsibilities. We're not really individualists in the most sense of the word, like the UK, Canada, or the United States. And then this plays into the mindset of responsibility in corporate life, right? So just to give an out-of-box example, so in the UK or Canada or the United States, we'll see people, no, look, this is my responsibility. I'll be able to handle this. Let me do it. Or even like when somebody does a mistake, they will say, oh no, like this is my fault. Like they actually recognize that they've done something that needs fixing. In Brazil, very rarely will take that behavior. People will say, oh no, let's do this together. Like there will not be a single person entitled to it. Like it's a group mindset. Or even like this goes on the street. So let's say you run, we actually sometimes try to blame other people for our mistakes. So like this is again not playing into individualism or taking full responsibility. This is about projecting what we do in other people's lives. So let's say somebody goes and they actually do something. They will say, oh, this was not my fault. This was actually someone else's fault. But instead of recognizing their own faults. So again, like it just plays on how we tend to actually work collectively within what we do, instead of like highlighting single responsibilities on an individualist level. Okay. I hope you're still there, because I know it's very quiet now. It's still content time, but we're advancing here on the title. Regarding business culture, so now that you've being able to learn a little bit more about the country and about the way that our mindset is actually structured. I definitely recommend you go on that, you search for Hofstede and look for a cultural compass and do an exercise between your country and Brazil and see what's written there with regards of mindsets and behaviors. That will give you a background on how to actually interact in our with our country. So a little bit here, going a little bit more granular on a business culture. So Brazilians negotiate with people, not companies. We negotiate with people that we like. So this is very important. So there is that personal connection that actually leads to business. Rarely it's the business that leads to a personal connection. So it's a different way that we lead and how we actually perceive other companies, other relationships with other people. Decisions are made by the highest ranking person. So again, this is important. Whenever you're dealing with a new company or a new prospect, it's important for you to understand the hierarchy of that organization and how far are you from the top. Okay, because that will impact whoever signs the contract. It might actually be that you have to go through several steps within that procurement process to get a contract signed, and you're going to interact with different people. And this is just me talking about corporate structures for big companies in Brazil, and they will have procedures for decision making that might take time, and you have to consider that on how you're moving up that ladder. Body language is important. So in Brazil, we have other ways of communicating too. We use our body to communicate. So it's normal for people in Brazil to actually, when we greet people the first time, we shake hands between men and women, or between women and women. We give a kiss on the cheek. Now, again, very interesting curiosity. If you go to different regions of the country, remember that I showed you those colors on the Brazil map. People can actually, so in São Paulo, we only give one kiss on the cheek. If you go to Rio, it's 2 kisses, one on each cheek. And then if you go to Rio Grande do Sul, which is the state down south, sometimes it's 3 kisses. So you do 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. But it's important for you to consider, so you're not in that awkward situation. Oh, how should I greet this person? People will mostly do handshakes. If you have any questions or you don't know how to behave, just do a handshake and everything is good. Okay? Don't feel awkward if sometimes men do a little tap on the back. So let's say you're interacting in a circle, in a networking or in a reception, people will go and tap you on the back. It's just a sign of closeness. Like, it doesn't mean anything else much, but don't be you don't have to feel anything awkward with regards to that. It's just people feeling comfortable with one another. Language skills, we talked about actually having people that speak Portuguese, or just considering the language barrier whenever you're coming, and the statistics. We definitely network over meals. We'll do lunch networkings. Our lunches are long. If we do a business meeting over lunch, you will go to a restaurant, you will sit, you will have a proper meal. And that can take like between 90 minutes to 2 hours for a business lunch or a business dinner with regards to that. So yeah, we definitely network over meals. And lunches here are very important. People take their time doing lunches. I want to take a time just to address this picture because I think it's very relevant. It basically says on the sign, don't step on the grass, okay? So this Brazilian guy here, he says, okay, I can't step on the grass, so I'll just take my hands instead, okay? This is us being creative, okay, around situations. So this actually plays within our flexibility, which was one of the keywords that I started this mentoring session with, where we actually say, look, you know what? If there's a way to get done, and it's not illegal, okay? We will be creative to make this happen. So again, like this is just very relevant for you to know, because sometimes people say, oh, like he's trying to bypass me or he's doing something shady. It doesn't really mean like that. Sometimes it's just us saying, look, doing business between both of us, between a Brazilian and a person from outside or a company from outside of Brazil, it demands certain skills and certain ways to actually foster that business connection legally. So we do our best to make it work. I guess that's the message within our jeitinho brasileiro. And then we're coming to a more technical part of the mentoring session. This is one of the last slides, and I just wanted to cover how we actually conduct meetings. So our meetings in presence usually last 90 minutes, an hour and a half. Online meetings, it's okay between 30 and 60 minutes, depending on the meeting and how important it is. For in-presence meetings, it's normal to be 15 minutes late for the meeting. And sometimes we take 7 days to reply the emails. So don't feel bad. It's not that you're not important. It's just it takes time for us to go over emails. We're mostly, most people prioritize interacting in person. So whenever they check their inboxes, it gets a little delayed in the process, but they will get to your email and reply. If they don't reply in 7 days, it's okay for you to go and send another follow-up email and say, hey, I just wanted to make sure that you saw my message, blah, blah, blah. This is what I wanted to address, or this is how I wanted us to proceed. Do you think this is okay? Would you like to consider another alternative? And go with the flow from there. It can take between 1 to 6 months to sign a contract. So I guess I just wanted to cover a little bit on the procurement processes on Brazil and how they actually run. I've been fortunate enough to lead a few of these situations. So usually our fiscal year runs from January to December. So all companies that are registered in Brazil run on this timeline, okay? So budget planning so depending on your average ticket size, so if it's something small like $5,000, $10,000, it might actually not need a procurement for that. But if you're going to a proper full procurement, selling something that costs a lot more money, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, $5 million, like it doesn't, if it's something that it's already on the budget, that will go within the flow of that procurement process, and that can happen any time in the year. But if it's something that needs to get added to a new budget, because if it wasn't forecasted before, you might even look to a larger cycle. What I mean is budget planning for the next fiscal year starts around August. So between August and September, October, the first drafts of the budgets for corporate companies will actually be in place, and we will start going through approval processes from November, December on the boards. So you have to consider whenever you're doing those prospections that you do those prospections between Q1 and Q2 so that you can be considered to be included on the budget for the next fiscal year between August and October, okay? And that's when they get those suppliers registrations. They do run on credentials and things like that. And then Q4, budgets are approved and are signed by the boards. And then projects can start being kicked off from January onwards. So again, just consider those timelines whenever you're doing business in Brazil, depending on your average ticket size. So there are a few things that are important to consider whenever you're doing business in Brazil and you want to scale. If you want to fast track those business deals, it's important that you consider hiring a country manager, either part-time or full-time, but have somebody doing business development for you and helping you establish the first initial operations for your company in Brazil. Sterna has a service for that. It's called the Country Managers Hub. But please make sure that you understand that having a person in the ground with the skills that can actually deliver that for you will actually fast track your negotiation process. Sometimes, depending on the ticket size that you sell, companies will require you to have a legal entity in Brazil. Our country is not very familiar with doing international payments. So depending on the organization that you're dealing with, they might be more fluent dealing with international suppliers, and other times they might not be fluent at all, and they will say, look, I'm not going to make an international wire to pay you just because it takes me a long time, it's a big process, I'd rather you establish in Brazil. So they will require legal entity to do that. It's not a hard thing to register a company in Brazil. Once you've done all the documentation work, the company house actually takes between 1 and 2 weeks to process your company information and give you a company ID. So yeah, I would definitely recommend you look into that if you're looking to scale in Brazil. Choose a soft landing hub, especially if you're a technology company. Those hubs are so good to get you started and get you connected within the local community. Sterna International Business is part of Kobo Itaú. So we actually help a lot of, and it's a terrific soft landing hub. So I would definitely consider Kobo if you're looking to land in Brazil. It's in São Paulo. They have national connections. The corporates are there. The investors are there. It's just a very dynamic ecosystem to do it, to land. And also have a local bank account and operate prices in reais if you can. Our currency is devaluated, so most Brazilian companies will prefer trading in reais to avoid any currency devaluation or evaluation risk. Just to wrap up, this is our group of companies. This is our business units that we operate. So Global Mindset Academy actually is where we do our mentoring sessions, our courses. We just now have a course that is going to be done in São Paulo at Kobo, the 25th of June, called the Global Business for Founders. It's an 8-hour course that we do in presence in São Paulo. We really recommend that you join us if you're looking at international journey. Sterna looks after our consultancy projects for our clients, national and international clients, where we design those expansion strategies for our clients to go global. And the Country Manager Hub actually delivers those expansion plans for our clients as needed. Guys, I know it was a lot of content. I wanted to give you a full view of how we actually do business in Brazil and how you can read us better. I really appreciate your time in being here with us. And I guess I will open for questions now. How do we see? Are we still there? Would anybody like to add a comment or make a question on how to do business? Just a second, I'll stop my presentation now so I can see you all. Please feel free to open the camera, open the mic, so we can interact a little bit in the final minutes of our mentoring session. I think we have a question on the chat. Antonio, what to do when your Brazilian employees claim each other for the fail? What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, let me tell you more. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
Cool. Okay, so when I'm already work here in Brazil, and I have employees here who work for me, but the main problem which I face regularly, honestly, it's that if something happened, maybe like a failure, maybe they didn't make something. So there's no responsibility. This like really, how can I explain it? There's no someone responsible for the failure. So it's like really hard to understand what's happened and how to fix it next time. So it's like everyone for failure is fail of everyone, not just one person. So this is like really hard to work with them.
Okay, but are you trying to find someone who did a mistake, or you just want to give the feedback so it doesn't happen again?
I want to understand the why it's happened probably the first time, but the second, like, yeah, give you feedback, but the first I try to understand like who was responsible and yeah, and maybe like fix it.
Okay, and where are you from?
Originally I'm from Russia.
Okay, okay, great. I asked because it's good for me to understand your mindset background, so whenever I'm explaining something to you, it makes sense to you. So I hope that's okay. So
Yeah.
yeah. How long? But now you're based in Brazil?
Yep. For years I'm
Okay,
here.
4 years. Okay. So probably one way to figure this out would be to go step by step on a soft tone. So I know that like between languages and between expressions, things can be miscommunicated along the way, but uh, my personal advice, as well as a professional advice from a leader, from a person who also manages teams, is that I, I would probably ask on, can you walk me back through the procedure you went through? Who was responsible for what and who conducted what? Before actually identifying where it was, just ask them to say how they proceeded on the matter. Okay? And then they will say, but they have to feel comfortable with you to actually share how it was, so they're not hiding anything. Does that make sense? So you got to be open on the situation, because for you to identify what went wrong, you have to understand how the process went. So you kind of have to be soft on this approach for the initial term, so they don't feel uh, 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 pressed against the wall in any way, if that makes sense. And then once you've reported, it can be on that same continuous situation, or you can say, well, thank you for sharing, I'll come back to you if I need anything, and just like go back and reflect on what went wrong and what you wanted them to do better. And then you can actually say, well, next time could you please proceed this way, and just guide them positively on how do you expect them to proceed in a situation B to C. So you've probably identified who did what, but you didn't blame them directly this way, but you've fixed the situation, and that probably just is going to give you more of a high attention on that person so that they don't do that again. And that's it. So I know it's for us, sometimes Brazilians take it on a personal level, and they will be sad and they will be demotivated, and like just like you kind of want to avoid that in a work environment. So I would definitely recommend to take a very professional, light approach in this case, if you can. But then if this person actually screws up 2 or 3 times, then sorry, like you kind of you can take the necessary steps to lay off people if that's the case.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's quite a challenge. I can see how that can be tricky. Does anybody have any other questions? You can raise your hand and speak, or just comment if you like.
can ask one
I'd
more
say
question.
go ahead.
Yeah, another question is regarding to partners. Uh, Really common what's happened in a first meeting, they're really motivated and nothing happened next. And even sometime I'm even like pay them, I'm shared my clients, leads, I try to do everything what is possible, like, and what really works in different countries. But in Brazil, for some reason, even I'm already here, I speak Portuguese and like I live close by, and it doesn't really matter because they're not really motivated. And I mean, even like short terms motivation. They, like it's only like in the moment. Right now, in this event, it's motivated, but next, this like nothing. So, what you can recommend in this case?
Okay, now this is trickier because we don't say no. And I should probably add a slide about the century session. We don't say no. And so like it's a really tricky knowing if Brazil really wants to move forward with you and or not. And in that case, you kind of have to read the room. And this is going to be very intangible for you, Antonio. Are you ready?
Sure, sure.
Okay, because you're going to have to see, and for the other ones also, you're going to have to see how their posture is presenting. Are they engaged in listening to you or not? Are they keeping eye contact? Are they making questions? Are they just wanting to learn more about your business and being truly interested? Or is it more of a generic question? Or is it more of like, yeah, yeah, let's keep talking. I would love to hear more. If they say, yeah, yeah, let's keep talking, I would love to hear more, send me an email. But they don't ask for a follow-up meeting date. Like for your WhatsApp number. The WhatsApp is always an indicator that they want to keep talking or not. But for now, I would say you're going to have to read the signs that they give to say, okay, I want to keep talking to you, but I never reply to you. So again, then like it shuts it down. It's our way of saying no without saying no. Oh, let's talk further in the future. That's a no. Okay. You're gonna see sometimes. So when do you know it's a no, and when do you know that it's a yes? Which is harder. Okay. It's harder to get the yeses than the no. So the yes is definitely when they make objective questions, that they're truly interested, they're paying attention, they're looking in your eyes, they're projecting themselves in the table and wanting to learn more, or they're just like in the back like this. It's not a real sign of interest. So again, it's just like you being more in attention with body language. If you can, I know that like in online meetings, it's a little trickier than in in-presence meetings. But yeah, I would definitely consider looking at those and just seeing on how they're expressing themselves. But yeah, like if they don't reply in 2 weeks, I would say with a follow-up something, and you followed up on your side, then you can mark that either as a loss or as a light touch until the future. It might be that you re-engage in like 6 months, in 12 months, then that would make sense. But yeah, Brazilians will only progress whenever they see the need, that they see the benefit. And then again, just playing on that short-term view, not long-term view, they will engage with you when it's burning for them. And then they will say, can you do this for the next week for me? Like they will be on an urgent stage and they will reach out to you and say, let's make it work now. And then that sounds more accurate. Until then, light touch. Just make sure that you're being remembered. Have coffee with them once in a while, ask how they're doing. That's it. You're based in Brazil, so you can do that. Right? I know it takes patience. That was another keyword at the beginning. And persistence. But you will get there. Yeah. Okay, Christophe.
Thank you, Raquel. And well, I would like to thank you, Antonio, for this two question, because on what I'm doing now, that's always I have the same points. Like the French companies talk to me, like, well, it was amazing meeting. So what's next? I say, depends. And so that's a really tough situation. So thank you, Raquel, for your answers. That's really, I mean, it's perfect about the signs, to read the signs. So it's not really the no in Brazil is very hard. And so I fully agree. That's a difficulty for foreign company to understand. I mean, just no, not restrict. Okay, no problem. That's next move, because you're maybe maybe, and if you don't have the right mindset, you are expecting your expectative are higher than the reality, and the emergency is a burning is that when it's a good moment, good timing. So I fully agree with all the comments you had. So I just so thinking about that. I don't know if someone have some question, but I fully agree with this main claim, I can say, for the French company. That's the same as Antonio.
Yes, exactly. This is the thing. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings just because we want to be likable. We want people to like us. So at the same time, we don't say no. It's very hard to a Brazilian to hear that no, I'm not interested. It comes back to us on a personal level and it breaks our heart. So we understand that business is business, okay? But as you saw, we do business with people we like. So it's on an emotional level of type of engagement. It's not just a rational business situation for Brazilians. So this is how it's important to read the room and why it's important to actually see. And for French companies or for foreign companies coming here and doing business, completely understand the situation. We see this more often that we would like to see because we never say no. And so it's hard for these people to actually come. But again, it's about that uh, active engagement. So companies come and then they fly back. We have the Atlantic separating us. What do? We forget. Then comes another company and there's another sale. And then we already forgot that one. So it's important for foreign companies that are coming for business development for short trips in Brazil to go back and keep that follow-up active. Go ahead and just add them in the WhatsApp. I know sometimes it's not something that it's not so common in other countries, but in Brazil it is. Ask to add one person's WhatsApp number. Send them a message from time to time. Share them something that you're doing in your own country. Say, oh, look, I'm here at this business fair. I remembered you. How are you doing? Just trying to just paying attention on when do you think would be good for us to reconnect? And that's okay. They will say, oh, in 3 months, in 6 months, in 10 months, next year, tomorrow. They will tell you, but that's a valuable question that you can make. And that's not unpolite. That's completely possible. Considering what I've shared to you, where do you see that it's relevant for us to actually touch base? And they would tell you, oh no, like looking at my priorities now or my long-term priorities, is this a short-term and long-term? X time. And then you follow up. And that's okay. persistence. Don't give up. It takes time to do business in Brazil, but it's definitely worth it. Fernando, last comments, because we're right on time.
Yes. Hi there. May I add two points for Christoph and Antonio. First, do business with Brazilians. I'm a Brazilian, and I'm a business guy. We, as Raquel say, we do the things in a personal level. So make friends. The best way to make business with Brazilians is to make friends. Have grow up a friendship with the one you want to close a business. That's the main point here. Uh, just for you, Christoph, and to Antonio, and for everyone else. The second point is in the first question that Antonio made. Uh, my my comment for you is hire a person that you trust. So put someone in the middle and make this one responsible. So you don't have to look and look for blame the whole team or one person in the team. That person will be your connection with the whole team. So I do this by myself a lot. I've been the both ends of this. I was a developer and I have to respond to a higher level. And I was in this higher level and I have to respond to directors. So I put myself, that's always is my uh, it's for me to I the one who blames because I was the person responsible for delivering the content, the site, the app, whatever. And it's my I missed the word. uh it's my fault. Okay. So if you have someone that you can trust in the mid level, you always have a way to conduct things. I hope I
Thank you for your 2 cents, we say in English. So thank you so much for your contribution. Guys, we're going to wrap up in the interest of time. We did the last mentoring session. I just wanted to appreciate everyone that came here today, that took their time to be with us today. This session is going to be live in our YouTube channel. So if you need to rewatch it or send to somebody that needs to watch this mentoring session, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next time. Stay tuned to our next series that is launching on next semester. See you in the world.